The importance of one knowing their history and their culture.
Most of us have received education that's been limited. Our heroes, or our perceived heroes, were John Wayne, Roy Rogers, and all those other guys that used to take a shot and used to kill Indians with one bullet. As I'm reading and educating myself a little bit more, I'm finding out that my history is more extensive, that I've been portrayed, that I come from a line of people who have been limited by education and by laws, and myself being a product of that because I was asleep. Now I'm awake. I'm waking up slowly, meeting people like yourself and others who are like mine. We're coming to a mass level of consciousness right now, and that mass level of consciousness is leading me to think more critically of my current condition. I am not what the preconceived notions of society says that I am. I am not a quote-unquote ex-offender. I am not a lifelong drug addict or alcoholic. I am not a woman beater. I don't have 4 or 5 women. Yes, I lived those, but it was based on the fantasy that we were sold, that a bad guy is supposed to have 4 or 5 women and we have to be well endowed. No, it has to be a commitment. It has to be acceptable to one's beliefs, and one has to treat their mate with the same respect one demands for oneself.
Now tell me about how are times today in comparison to when you grew up here in New York City? I mean, are things the same here all across the country, the same way they were when you grew up, or are times different?
For example, a young man just rode by in a dirt bike. This is a public area where it's not permitted because there's children and other people participating in the park. What has guided that child to do that, or that young man to do that? It's some kind of rebelliousness, in consideration of others. What has made him so angry internally, although he won't admit it, that he's going to ride down this park as though he owns the place and not considering the safety of others? Who are the male role models in his life? Who are the female role models in his life? Because it's not that dream that all males are powerful. There's a union. And my mother was powerful. My grandmother was powerful. My aunt in the park right now is very powerful.
But do you think that things are tougher for the kids of today versus the kids of maybe the time when you grew up? Are times tougher?
Absolutely.
Really? What makes them tougher?
Because they've been conditioned to be anti-authoritarian. They've been conditioned to represent that in their lifestyles, the way they dress, the way they speak, the way they address themselves. Any kind of interaction, whether it be positive or beneficial for them, they confront it, they shut down, and they challenge it in a negative way. How can I better glitter than the streets? The streets glitters, but also the mass media. You know, and I have to say this, man. I have to blame those people in the media that put those movies of the big badass guy, excuse my language, the big bad guy who's got 20 gazillion guns and kills everybody and no cops show up. You know, that the condition of slavery, as one of my sources state, is not dead. It's also part of the prison industrial complex, the judicial industrial complex, that tells them it's okay to go back to Rikers Island or Nappanak or Sing Sing, and that's a status symbol. That's all a lie.
Do you think that things could be turned around, or are the kids lost? Is there anything that we could do today for our youth, or is it just a lost cause?
No, it's not a lost cause. Right. I've interacted with kids for the past 10, 15 years, and they have to go through that phase. I've discovered that they have to go through that phase, but while going through that phase, how many positive role models like yourself and myself have come into their lives, told them this is what's down the road, that they have to, based on the way they think and do things, they're going to go through it. And then they come back after going through it and saying, hey man, I'm changing my life. But while I was going through it, I was thinking about you. And there's a lot of us that need to get together and see how we can crystallize that message.
The next question is, we are looking at people like yourself as living ancestors simply because you have gone through things that many of these youth have not experienced, they have not gone through, and they really don't know the depth of your experience and what it took to bring you out personally. So, as an ancestral sighting, as a living ancestor yourself, without all the celebrity and all the hoopla that most of the popular athletes and actors have and live off of, what would you suggest that our youth today do that can maybe help pull them up or get them over the hump, since we don't have visible role models as we did back in the 60s and 70s?
Get the vision back. Get the vision back. Look from where you come from. Look at the historical perspective of Latinos. I was unaware of Antonia Pantojas. I was not aware of Antonetti. I was not aware of Hostos. I was not Eugenio Maria de Campos, John Henry Clark, the unsung heroes of the Civil Rights Movement, white or black. All these community educators and activists that sacrificed. How many people were lynched? How many people were subjected to the abuses of the society back then? What was the cause of that? How can that be looked at and say, hey, wait a minute, how is it happening now to me?
Well, since they don't teach this in school, how can they get that information?
Through us. There has to be a collective of individuals like yourself and myself that are willing to risk everything. Everything. As a former U.S. Army National Guard member and former member of the intelligence community, it's an oxymoron, but I understand that all that I learned there was for a purpose, to achieve the winning and the success of the company or the unit that I was in.
Now, before you got to that level in your career, in your life, and you were quote-unquote a knucklehead and you were doing many of the things that are frowned upon by society or just negative things, how was it for you to make that transition from local knucklehead or from bad boy to the man that you have become? How difficult?
Staying aware of the contacts.
What made you do that?
First time I went to jail, I thought it was a joke. Second time, the question was posed in my head, do I want to be here? What is it that caused me to be here? Why am I here? What will allow me to walk out of here? And address those questions honestly, critically, at oneself, and saying, what is it that my actions contributed to? What are the environments that I socialized with? What kind of actions do I have to do? What kind of modifications I have to do so that way I don't have to live that way again? And I realized that I had to do internal search, internal work. I had to look for the wishes and the desires that my grandfather had for me, that my father had for me, the powerful women in my family had for me, and still do, and the positive friendships that I run into. There's no coincidences. It's a growth, ongoing growth situation.
And so I want to take the time just to say thank you for sharing just a hair, because it's not even nowhere near the depth of your story or of your life or the knowledge that you possess and the nuggets that you could share with our youth as well as some of our adults. Thank you again, and look forward to seeing this information on the World Wide Web so that people can be informed, enlightened, and they can continue to grow. Thank you so much.
Stay blessed.